Great, thank you. Welcome everybody to the June 2020 TDL Member Forum. We're glad you've joined us today. My name is Kristi Park. I'm the director of the Texas Digital Library, and I am joined by Lea DeForest, our communications manager, Alex Suarez, our administrative associate, and a few of our members who will share announcements throughout today's forum. Courtney Muma, our deputy director, is attending the virtual Dataverse community meeting and won't be able to join us today, so I'll be pinch hitting for her in a couple of spots. We'll follow our usual agenda shown here, and just a couple of reminders as we start. If you have questions, please feel free to use the chat window. You also have the ability to download the slides in the Files pod at the bottom of the screen. And as I said earlier, we are recording this, so you'll be able to access it on the TDL YouTube channel later on. We'll go through our various updates. We should have some time for Q&A and open discussion at the end. So I want to start by expressing my hope that each one of you and your loved ones are well and safe, and also acknowledge the pretty stressful and difficult times we're living in, both with the pandemic and the huge knock-on effects of that, and then also the renewed distress over police violence against Black folks and the protest and unrest that have resulted from that. It's a lot right now, but I also want to say that they seem like exciting times also, at least potentially, times of possibility and productive unrest, and maybe a moment in time where white folks can be vulnerable enough to listen and learn and join with those who have been asking for change and justice. It's really hard to know what to say during a time like this, partly because I think we all know that the time for words and symbolic action ought to be long past, and also because these are sensitive topics, and we don't want our words to be hurtful or insensitive or harmful in any way. So I approach this, anything I say, from a place of great humility and appreciate y'all's grace. But I'll just say a couple of things here from the TDL perspective. First of all, as we stated in our public statement from last week, we stand with Black folks who are seeking justice right now, both in terms of their relationship to law enforcement, but also generally, or specifically, in seeking justice within the library and archives communities in which we all do our work. And we're committed to orienting our work and our resources to create safer and more supportive spaces for Black folks and for work that rights the wrongs of the past and of the present. I think fundamentally that the work of TDL is work that promotes equity and inclusion, as we are working to provide alternative and non-capitalist models for distributing research and cultural heritage materials, models that we hope are more equitable and provide more equitable access globally. But we have not always tied that general commitment to equity and equitable access to issues of racial or gender equity. In the past few years, starting mostly in around 2017, we started taking some deliberate steps to do that. We've tried to make sure our annual conference featured the voices of people of color, and in particular Black voices, both in our keynote selections and in the program generally. We've paid attention to the racial makeup of our committees to make sure we had Black voices represented there, including in leadership. We've paid attention to our hiring practices and made deliberate efforts to recruit Black and Brown candidates, And in the past year, we've reached out to historically black colleges and universities in Texas to engage representatives from those institutions in several of our planning efforts. None of this is enough, of course, and one of the ways it's not enough is that we haven't really talked about it with you, our members, in ways that allow you to hold us accountable. So we're going to try to do a better job of that. Following up on the statement from last week, we're first doing some internal planning and holding some internal discussions about how we can move forward in a more accountable way and how we can more fully embody our desire as TDL staff to promote justice, equity, and inclusion in our communities. And I don't have any big announcements on anything today, but just want you to know we'll be talking about it with you more in the months to come. And we may ask things of you in the months to come, but for now, we're just asking to hear from you if you have something that you want to tell us. That could be an idea, a constructive criticism, or a non-constructive criticism, concerns you have, an experience you want to share with us. And Lea has kindly set up a form linked here. We're calling it a suggestion box, but it doesn't have to be a suggestion. It can be anything that you want to share. And you can use that to anonymously provide us with feedback if you want to. You can also email us directly. You can email me or any of our staff who you're comfortable with to share what you want to share or start a conversation with us. We would love that. I also want to remind you of some resources that we have collected and still are maintaining on our website related to the COVID-19 pandemic, linked to here. Those resources include links to free trainings, details about upcoming meetings and webinars that we invite you to attend, and slides and meeting notes from recent events. I've said it before, it bears repeating. I'm really grateful for you and proud of the work of all of our members and our staff during this period of time. We really appreciate everything you do, and we have really appreciated getting to know many of our members during our weekly hangouts, which we started once everyone started working from home. We've had a lot of fruitful conversations. We've had ideas come up in these agendaless meetings that in some cases we've been able to act on, and one of those is the creation of a TDL community Slack. So Ann Washington from the University of Houston suggested this. We thought it was a fantastic idea, so we've launched a TDL community Slack where folks can come and talk about whatever it is they want to talk about, whether that's gardening, Animal Crossing, pets, or even work. I think we have a metadata channel in there as well. So this is completely community driven. It's there for you if you want to connect with other TDL members across the state, and we hope you'll join it. You can email us if you want to join, and we will send an invitation. You can email us at info@tdl.org to get that started. I'll also note that we have been holding our Hangouts weekly on Wednesdays. We are not holding one today because of the forum, but we'll resume that next week, and we hope you'll join us. Okay, and finally, you'll probably remember that this spring, earlier in the spring, we announced a project called Find 5 that showcases the digital collections of our member institutions and encouraged non-digital library staff to engage with the digital content in their repositories. I couldn't be more thrilled with the response that we got from all of you to this project, and I think you'll be very pleased with it too. We have published all of the entries to the Find 5 project on our website. You can follow the link here on this slide to view the exhibits page and see the 8 institutions represented there. And we'll be sending out an announcement about the project soon, so keep an eye out for that and be sure to share it with your teammates and friends. We're also going to be highlighting these individual collections through social media, so be on the lookout for that and be sure to retweet or share your collection, your mini collection when it gets posted. This is really fun, and we've enjoyed learning more about the digital collections in our members' repositories. Okay. So we'll move on to some service and project updates, starting with outcome of our recent governing board meeting, which happened last Tuesday. And that is a decision for TDL to join, or for 1 year, do a pilot 1-year membership in the Carpentries organization to focus on data carpentry, and I'll talk a little bit about what that means. So the Texas Data Repository Steering Committee requested this past year that TDL consider a 1-year pilot membership in the Carpentries as a means to increase literacy among TDL library staff in fundamental data skills needed to conduct research and to prepare them as workshop leaders in these skills. The Carpentries is a community-driven collective of instructors who teach foundational computational and data science skills to researchers. And so we're hoping through this membership that we'll train TDL member librarians in Carpentry's principles and in these data science skills and be able to build greater capacity for ongoing sustainable Carpentry's instructions at institutions across Texas. And we also hope that by learning best practices for managing data through these workshops, that researchers at our member institutions will be better equipped to share data that is findable, accessible, interoperable, and reproducible. In other words, that aligns with the FAIR principles. So the board approved this pilot membership. This will be for next fiscal year. We'll be joining at the silver level for 1 year and focused on data carpentries, meaning those data science skills building efforts. So as a result of this, we'll have 4 1.5-day Carpentries coordinated workshops that will be hosted at libraries across the state. We're hoping that we'll be able to do those in person at some point next year. And we will be able to certify 6 Carpentries instructors within TDL member institutions. This is a virtual training program that certifies these Carpentry instructors. And we'll be selecting those through the TDR's project team that is going to be coordinating this effort. So Texas Data Repository members will have priority for one of those 6 certifications, and we'll be sharing more about that later on. The TDR project team is also planning a session at TCDL in May 2021, and we'll also have a staff representative seat on the Carpentries Member Council as a result of this membership. So we're really in the early phases of this. Nothing will happen on it in practice until the next fiscal year, until the fall. But we wanted you to know that this was in the works. We're really excited about it, and I think it's going to be a great opportunity to build some needed expertise within our community in the data management realm. If you have any questions about this, please feel free to contact us at info@tdl.org, and we will find the right folks to answer this. I also just want to say this was a really grassroots kind of idea. It came out of our TDR steering committee. They did the work to survey the membership and build the case for this and bring it to us, and it was really great to see that, and we're grateful to them for doing that work to bring it to us. Secondly, I want to give you some updates on Open Journal Systems, our journal hosting service. We are continuing migrations of our hosted OJS journals to version 3.1.2. Last week we launched migrations for 4 additional institutions listed here on the slide: UT Rio Grande Valley, UT Austin, A&M International, and Texas Women's University. So that continues and will likely continue through the summer. We'll be wrapping those migrations up. I also want to call your attention to 2 new community resources available to OJS users that are now available in the TDL Wiki. One is an excellent slide set on functionality in OJS 3 related to copyright licensing and ORCID that was put together by Laura Waugh from Texas State University and presented at our last OJS user group meeting. The second is a really great set of instructions for using one of our most popular plugins in Open Journal Systems, the Quick Submit plugin, from Susan Elkins at Sam Houston State University. So thank you to those community members for those resources. I want to make sure everybody knows about them. As a reminder, our OJS user group meets monthly and is intended for library folks who are supporting this service for faculty members at their institution. The next meeting is July 2nd, and we're slated to talk about indexing and discoverability of OJS journals there. Next up, I'm going to provide an update on VRIO upgrades in lieu of Courtney today, since she's not able to be with us. We have begun the process of moving our hosted installations of VRIO to the latest version, VRIO version 4. And so if you are a manager of VRIO at your institution, you, I'm sure, have been in contact with Courtney by now to schedule that migration at a time that's convenient for your institution. We've already been piloting the new version with several member institutions, and we've begun a production upgrade process with Sam Houston State University. We'll be working with each of you throughout the summer and fall to get those installations up to date, and we have some extensive documentation available to you in the wiki. We have a link to the upgrade FAQs here that you can refer to. Yesterday, Courtney and the VRIO User Group Steering Committee hosted the virtual annual meeting of the VRIO Users Group to discuss the new version of VRIO, along with some other issues of concern to the open source community. And we had more than 40 people from around the world in attendance at that meeting, VRIO users from across the US, but also Amsterdam and Canada and some other places. Notes from the meeting are linked to from this slide, and a recording will be made available as we get that processed. And finally, I just wanted to note here on the slide that we do have a VRIO 4 training webinar scheduled for Friday, July 17th from 1 to 3 p.m. It'll be on Zoom, and you need to register for it if you're going to attend. If you work with VRIO at all, this will be a good opportunity for you to get a look at the new features in VRIO 4 and some of the changes in the administrative interface that you'll need to know about. Okay, so now I'm going to pass it on to Jonathon Youseffnia. Jonathon was one of TDL's capstone students from the spring semester, and he is going to talk about his project a little bit. So Jonathon, take it away.
Cool, thank you, Kristi. Hi everyone, this is Jonathon. I am the Licensing and Electronic Resources Coordinator for the UT Austin Libraries. and I graduated from the School of Information here in May. So last semester I completed my capstone project with TDL by developing a member directory to be hosted on TDL's website. And as you know, TDL counts many talented information professionals among its membership. So the goal of my project was to create a searchable directory of experts on various subject matters to be hosted by TDL, to be used by TDL members as a resource for collaboration and support. So my first step was to produce and distribute a survey to gather information about TDL members and partners and the skills they possess. So thank you everyone who participated in the survey. Once we had that data, I created a searchable database to be hosted on the TDL website using a WordPress plugin that I recommended after doing a comparative analysis of some different plugin options. And I also developed a maintenance plan for data hygiene. So you can find a link to the directory in this slide if you want to take a look, and expect to see an announcement once it is integrated into the site navigation. At the top of the page, we listed the skills we surveyed members on so you can see all of the possible search terms. And then beneath that, there's an alphabetical scroll list tied to member last name so you can skip to a particular letter of the alphabet. And then under that, you'll find a search box where you can search for a skill from that list of terms, or a tool, or someone's name. Now, our hope is that TDL members and partners will use this database to find potential partners for collaboration, maybe future mentors, project assistance and advice, and any other way you find to make the database beneficial for you and your team. And then lastly, if you have a chance to participate, if you didn't have a chance to participate in the original survey and would like to add your information to the database, you can just email TDL and they'll be happy to help get you set up. And yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in the chat. And other than that, I just want to say thank you to Lea and everyone at TDL for a great semester. And now I'll hand things off to Brenna Wheeler.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. That's going to be a really great tool for people to use, and excited to see where it goes. I also recently graduated a couple weeks ago, and so this is my capstone project where I created a data curation workflow for liaison librarians here at the University of Texas, Austin to use. And so to create this workflow, I had to follow three main tasks. The first one was to identify tools that would be useful for our librarians to use, mainly the Dataverse API and the Dataverse curation tools developed by the Dataverse project. Both of these were a lot better at looking at large batches of metadata, so they'd be great for an administrative level, but not so much the curation. Second big project was to assess all the published data sets currently in the UT Austin Dataverse. That was probably a good 50% of my work right there. And so things I looked at was just how rich was the metadata. Does it explain how the data was created, how it was manipulated, how it got to why it was there. I also looked at what sort of software was used, such as file types, and then also looking at if documentation was provided, such as README files or codexes. And then finally, the final main task was just to keep an open communication with the liaison librarians. When I started this project, I met with the STEM and social sciences team. I then proceeded to have small questionnaires, small individual interviews, just to get an idea of what sort of experience they had with their researchers and where some improvements could be found. And then I also took the workflow that I created and presented a rough draft to most of the librarians. I think there were about 20 people at that session, just to get their feedback and to start the discussion of how we can work through this, how it can be improved, what sort of vocabulary needed to be developed or such. And so, sorry. And so I took all this feedback, I took the data assessment, and I used it and I basically applied it to the curated workflow developed by the Data Curation Network. They already had a pretty good workflow in place. I just took the information I gathered and localized it specifically to our Dataverse. And so on this slide, I've provided kind of a summary of each of the main major steps. For checking the data, does it have, is it there? Is there a description? Is there a title? Understanding the metadata, does it explain how the data is structured? Augmenting the data sets, how can we enhance the metadata, so for findability? Transforming data sets, what sort of format is being used, what are the restrictions, and is there a non-proprietary equivalent? Evaluating the data set, does the data set meet the requirements? Requesting additional information from the researchers to improve the data set, and are we documenting these changes? I believe each of these steps has about 5 to 7 bullet points underneath, so so the liaison librarians can have the list in front of them as they're going through and evaluating the data sets, and they can just check it off and identify areas that might need additional work. And so the next steps for this project, the major thing is to solicit volunteers for this data curation team. Depending on people's comfort levels and how available they are to contribute to this project. The second major step is to create a sort of guideline or procedure for additional librarian involvement in this sort of in data curation. Because right now, this process is asking just for people to go through as data sets are being deposited and ensuring, okay, does this meet the requirements? But say there's a large institution that might want a librarian to help develop a workflow for depositing these data sets, or if there's a large project that needs additional help from the librarian to make sure that all goals are being met, all requirements are being met. And so in those types of situations, at what point do we say, okay, the basic feedback, that's a freebie, that's part of our job. But after that point, we're going to need credit for doing this extra work. And so that kind of leads it into the third step or recommendation for TDRs to create this data curator element within the schema, so that way librarians who are doing this type of work, and in addition to all their other tasks, can get credit for this project. So that is my capstone. Thank you, Lea and Kristi and TDL, for inviting me here, and I'll be taking questions later.
Brenna, thank you so much, Brenna and Jonathon, for your excellent work this past semester. Both of you have created really important capacity building projects that all of us at TDL are going to benefit from for years to come, and we're really grateful for your efforts and your excellent work. Hi everyone, this is Lea DeForest. I'm the Communications Manager with Texas Digital Library. I do recognize the time, and so please, it's not a problem if you need to take off. We had too much to tell you today, so we do have a few more announcements if you can spare a few extra minutes for us. Thanks. So as you can see on the screen, I am really excited to get to announce that TDL has selected the inaugural cohort of the OER Ambassadors. I've got them all listed up there, but this group of 7 people had to go through an application process. We had some amazing applicants. It was not an easy decision. And so this group is very well poised to serve the consortium. And I'm really pleased to get to serve alongside these ambassadors as the staff liaison for TDL. The ambassadors that you see here on this list have committed to 2 years to service and are going to develop a community of practice around OER and hopefully become a source of expertise for all consortium members. These ambassadors, we've met once, just a very kind of low-key getting to know you session, and we're going to begin meeting monthly starting in July 2020 after we complete the online Open Textbook Network Summer Institute. So if you have any questions or suggestions about the ambassadors, please feel free to email me or our info at TDL address. And so now we just have a few community updates, and I'm going to hand things over to Alex to get us started.
Thanks, Leah, and hello everyone. This is Alex Suarez, TDL's admin and conference planner. As a reminder, the TDL award ceremony, which was originally slated to take place during the opening plenary session ahead of the keynotes, is going to be held online on July 30th. We have a truly inspiring list of award winners this year, and I hope you all will be able to attend. We couldn't not honor these award winners this year, so please go ahead and register for the event by following the link on the slide. Interspersed throughout the award ceremony, TDL will be delivering a few key updates regarding our accomplishments over the past year, as well as what we envision moving into our next phase. Please make sure you signed up for our email list so you don't miss our official email announcement and invitation. A handful of TCDL-related events have moved online, and we've already hosted a few successful Birds of a Feathers and user group meetings. Feel free to take a look at the dates and times listed on the slide for upcoming online TCDL events, and be sure to register ahead of time. Feel free to contact me or email us at info@tdl.org if you have any questions. A couple of other events that we have coming up. We have our GIS Interest Group, which is following the success of the GIS Birds of a Feather meeting earlier this month. TDL is partnering up with Michael Shensky of UT Libraries and other members and partners to start a GIS Interest Group. If you are interested in learning more about how geographic information systems work, how you might launch GIS initiatives on your campus, and or meet other people working with GIS in libraries, archives, and special collections, then join us tomorrow afternoon at 2 p.m. Registration is required, so click on the link on the left side of the slide to register. Next month, we also have an exciting webinar planned with Greg Kam of the New York Public Library. Greg will present the fundamentals of copyright law, including the duration of protection for both published and archival items. The webinar will also cover fair use and other limitations. Registration is required, and you can click on the link on the right side of the slide to register. And now I'll hand things back over to Leah.
Okay, oops, we gave away a surprise at the end. Okay, so thanks, Alex, for all of your hard work getting these events coordinated. I know it's not easy to switch this conference to a virtual format, and so we're trying to just be really thoughtful about which events make sense to bring online. And then everybody, fingers crossed, 2021 in person. Okay, so I'm also excited to share another event with you all. So following the success of both some big OER events that happened in 2018, we had the statewide OER Summit, and in 2019 we had a statewide Open Education Texas convening. TDL has partnered with the Digital Higher Education Consortium of Texas, also known as Digitex, to jointly organize a new annual Open Education Conference here in Texas. It's called Open Texas. And the purpose of this conference will be to convene librarians, faculty, administrators, and other open education practitioners and advocates in Texas. So save the dates for this in-person event. Again, fingers crossed. This will be taking place in Houston, Texas, at the University of Houston downtown campus next March 11th and 12th in 2021. Lots more to come here. We haven't yet opened our CFP or registration, but we plan to soon, so keep an eye out for those updates. And before I move to the next slide, oh good, okay, you're here. Santi. Last but not least, we had some exciting news, and we want to congratulate someone who's very special to us at TDL. Santi Thompson was selected as the inaugural recipient of the EVA Digital Research Endowed Library Professorship at the University of Houston. Many of you know Santi. He is the head of Digital Research Services at UH Libraries, and his new role will help UH Libraries expand its service in emerging areas such as digital research, data preservation and accessibility, and SCOLCOM. So Santi's got a long list of impressive accomplishments, but they are outshined by his kindness, his humor, and his commitment to you and to us by elevating the work of librarians and archivists and students and scholars in our community. If you click on the link, you can read more about Santi's new role and the professorship, and hope you'll join me and the rest of TDL staff in congratulating Santi in his new role. And now, I think that's it. Back to you, Kristi.
Okay, Thank you, Leah, and thanks Alex and Brenna and Jonathan for all of the wonderful updates and reports. We are way over time today, so I really appreciate everybody sticking with us. We had a lot to share, and it didn't help that I was a minute or two late getting online. So thanks for your patience. We are happy to take some questions, and I see that there is one question for Brenna, if Brenna is still on the line. Lauren at Texas State.
Hello.
Brenna, Lauren says she missed what you said about the data curators getting credit or something for their work. Could you repeat that?
Oh, yes. I really rushed through that part. I rushed through the whole thing. So this was inspired by conversations with various librarians, and also not just about data curation, but also about literature reviews that'll be becoming more common tasks for librarians. So since our data curation team, what we had in mind was to take volunteers from liaison librarians who are currently dividing their time between a lot of different parts. So what we talked about was one librarian said, like, oh, I have my students in my department would love to use these services and will definitely want my feedback, but I don't think I can help them catalog every single data set that comes in, or at least guide them through it. So one thing we talked about was creating this metadata element of data curator or data steward. So that way, if people on the team, if the researchers need additional help outside of that basic feedback that they're getting, they can talk to the librarian, any librarian that's associated with them, that could be relevant to their interests, and that librarian can receive credit for the additional work they're doing outside of the data curation, the basic data curation workflow. And that's going to, what that looks like will probably depend on the institution's guidelines for this process.
Great. Thanks, Brenna.
Thank you.
Are there other questions? I'm not seeing any typing. Okay. Well, I will just conclude by saying thanks again to all our presenters today. Thank you to all of you for attending and sticking with us 10 minutes past the hour. We will be back again, we'll be back in next week for our hangout. If you want to join us there, we'll be back again next month for the TDL Forum, same time, same place in July. And in the meantime, we hope you will stay safe and well and reach out to us if you need anything. Thanks, everybody.